What's going on, Larry Carnell of Benetrends Financial? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. It's good seeing you again.
Good to see you too. Always a pleasure. You're looking good. Are you at the Benetrends office right now, or is that like a screen backdrop thing that the Zoom does?
Blue screen background. I'm usually traveling across the country. I just got back from a couple of events where we were sponsoring events, speaking at events specifically about the Rob's Wrap options that we offer.
Awesome. And we're going to get all into that Rob's Wrap, and my audience just gobbles that stuff up. Everyone, Larry Carnell, Benetrends Financial, we're going to dive deep into the rollover business startup, the Rainmaker Advantage program, and everything that Benetrend is doing in the world of entrepreneurship and business ownership. Larry, we were talking before we hit record just about America, right? I mean, because like I'm overseas right now. You travel often. I mean, just like very like off the top, right? Like because as you know, like we don't prepare for these podcasts as much as other people prepare. Forget, and we're not gonna get political, right? But I mean, what are the things about America that you like what's great about America, right? So many things are great. I would like what things immediately come top of mind for you?
Well, obviously the opportunity in many countries, there's not the opportunities to build wealth, protect your family, have an opportunity to get ahead. In this country, anybody can get ahead. And whether you're an immigrant, whether you're somebody from a poor historical family background, you can be wealthy and you can live what we often refer to as the American dream. I often feel the American dream is becoming a business owner, building long-term security for you and your family. And you can do that through business ownership much better than you can by being an employee. In my opinion, there's no longer job security in the job. But there is security if you find the right business.
Absolutely. And you and me, brother, I mean, that owning a business is not for everyone, but it is the lifestyle of choice for many people. And you and I are both in that boat, and the money making potential of being a business owner for sure, right? Like the tax treatment of being self-employed versus being a W-2 on the payroll of a company that you don't own, absolutely. But it's lifestyle, I mean, and we're recording, but I'm getting my notes. Got to have my notes here. But lifestyle, right? I mean, doing it for yourself, working hard, but there's just something dignifying about at the end of the day after a hard day's work, sitting down at the dinner table with the family, taking a deep breath, surrounded by loved ones, knowing that you just worked your tail off that day, but you did it for your own company. I mean, I experience that every day, and I love it. And I'm all about working smart, even more than working hard these days. I'm at that point. I mean, I know I'm in my mid-30s. I still got a long way to go, God willing. But I'm
a little older than you.
Just nah. Working smart over working hard, but like working hard is always that backbone, is always that default. But just doing it for yourself, man, versus doing it for the man, it's just such a blessing. And there's no other place in the world that can happen than America.
Well, and most consumers don't understand. I actually think as an employee, the tax code system works against us, because as our income goes up, what happens to our taxes? Our tax rates go up as well. But conversely, as a business owner, there's ways to actually decrease your taxes 40 to 50% as a business owner that you don't get as an employee. So you really, in my opinion, are often capped in terms of the income opportunity if you're drawing money out strictly as income. But as a business owner, there are ways to structure the business, use the tax code, find ways to run personal expenses through the business, and also take money out in ways that cut your taxes as much as 40 to 50%.
Absolutely. And let's get into it, right? I mean, Benetrends Financial, why don't you give the audience, the genesis story of Benetrends, and then we're going to get all into robs, rap, and using retirement assets to fund and start and operate businesses. But Benetrends Financial, what's the genesis story there?
Well, Benetrends Financial is a one-stop funding resource. We're the only funding resource publicly endorsed by the International Franchise Association. We do all kinds of funding: SBA, microloans, unsecured security-backed lending, leasing. We also pioneered the program that allows people to use their retirement funds tax penalty debt-free, as well as an innovative program that allows people to grow the business and be forever exempted from capital gains tax. But our role is to provide customized structures and funding resources to help you live that American dream of owning your own business, or use cash or retirement funds to be able to leverage your ability to buy a bigger, better business. We've been in business over 40 years. We have an A+ 5-star service rating. We've literally helped thousands, tens of thousands of people buy, sell, fund, and exit businesses. But we've been doing this for a while, and I think what's different is that a lot of businesses or finance companies are focused on funding a business. We go beyond that by helping people understand not just how to get into a business, but how to structure the business to help you accumulate, accelerate, protect wealth, and mitigate taxes. In the new economy, it's not how much wealth you accumulate in life, it's how much you keep. And unfortunately, the political situations and other things out there are being pushed into a direction to take more of the profits away from an individual. And so if you have techniques and programs to help you keep more of that wealth, that's going to be important, if not for you, for a surviving spouse or your children decades from now. But what you do today is going to impact your ability to potentially save hundreds of thousands of dollars in pure cash in your pocket. That's what we do. We help you with both initial strategies to get into a business, but short and long-term strategies to help you accumulate, accelerate, protect that wealth up to 10 times faster than what you may be able to do as an employee working someplace. The rules are really written to benefit business owners much more so than employees. And when you understand that, then it motivates you to become a business owner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what about retirement assets? Like how many, so many Americans, when you look at each of their respective personal financial statements, isn't it amazing how much of their assets are really accumulated in that one bucket of retirement versus equity in house or cash in the bank?
Yeah, in actuality, the ability to buy a business is often predicated based on the liquid assets you have available. Until Benetrends came around, your biggest liquid asset, which was your retirement funds, was not accessible unless you paid fines and penalties. We helped discover the legal pathway to allow you to do this. Most people know me as the guy that introduced this program to the first franchise, first business acquisition in the country decades ago. But it's now exploded in popularity because people realize you can take part or all of your retirement funds and you can buy a business 3 or 4 times larger than you anticipated by being able to leverage your retirement funds to do that. And Lynn Fisher is the ERISA attorney that discovered the legal pathway to do that. He credits me with helping to introduce it to the franchise and business acquisition community. But my background's accounting and finance. I've owned several businesses. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, an award-winning director of development for a couple of pioneers in franchising. Much of what I've done across the country is lecture, speak at national conventions with some notable people like Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, other notable people, to help them understand how to use the tax code and how to use a business structure to build the type of wealth and build type of long-term security that can protect you well beyond the grave. And in the new economy, what's happening is healthcare has now become the fastest growing erosion of wealth. Retirement plan assets under federal law can never be seized by creditors. So a lot of people, the light bulb has gone off and they've decided, well, hey, why don't we build wealth in vehicles that if something happens to me as a husband, for example, historically in America, husbands are 2 years older than their wives. Women outlive men by 5 years, so there's a 7-year differential. between the passing of the husband and the passing of the wife. So if something happens to the husband, we want that wealth for the surviving spouse. And if something happens to the husband, the wife is moving into that point of her life where she starts to have healthcare related issues as well, with one major differential. When you become a single spouse, there's not somebody there to take care of you. So you're 3 times more likely to need long-term care. Long-term care can cost $5,000 or more a month. And 90% of people that go into long-term care end up being bankrupt or become dependent on their children or a burden on their children. So having protected wealth that can help you during this period of time becomes critically important, and that risk is not leveling out, it's accelerating. Back in the 1990s, 20-some-odd% of all bankruptcies were due to healthcare. Now it's jumped to 67%, and it's accelerating because we're like old Chevrolets. We don't just stop rolling. We keep replacing the parts. Well, the problem is we spend more money the last 3 years of our lives than we do the previous 70 plus years of our lives combined. So if we're not putting money aside in a protected vehicle, we could find ourselves destitute. It's not a question of surviving any longer. It's a question of surviving the cost of surviving and surviving multiple life-threatening illnesses. Coming out of the illness with our wealth intact for that next illness that we may encounter.
Yeah. And people are living longer.
Oh, absolutely. And, back in the 1990s, a lot of people literally were dying at home in bed, but with advancements of MRIs, CAT scans, other types of devices, we were discovering life-threatening illnesses years or months before they actually killed us. So people stopped dying. Well, that's great for, our parents, and that's great for our loved ones and what have you, but there's a cost to surviving, not only in terms of not only in terms of Social Security costs, but because we're surviving these multiple life-threatening illnesses. I've got a friend that's been in an intensive care unit 4 times in the last 2 years. So every time he goes in, an intensive care unit stay is over $100,000. The taxpayer is paying for all this. And the problem is politicians have not anticipated the cost of Medicare. And that's the reason Medicare costs are going up 5 times the rate of inflation. And that's another reason to have structures that will protect that wealth and not have your wealth taken from you with increased or doubling Medicare premiums that are growing at exponential rates right now.
Absolutely. So we talk about ROBs, right? And so everyone, you just like all of the knowledge that Larry just dropped right there, just click that subscribe button below, because that's the type of content that you're getting on the SRA YouTube channel with me, your host, Michael Reeder, CPA. Just more and more talking to industry experts, subject matter experts like Larry Carnell. And by the way, people, when it comes to ROBs, Larry Carnell, he was at the first franchise conference that I was at back in 2015. And I've known him for years, and he is a mentor of mine in this industry. He is a guru for all things ROBs. And so, Larry, I'm so humbled and grateful to have you on the show. Let's get into ROBs. I mean, we throw around this acronym. What is ROBs, and why is it so strategic for business owners?
Well, ROBs is actually a term that was implemented almost 30 years after the actual ROBs program became available. Again, it started in 1982. The ROBs acronym kind of came out in 2009, which is Rollover for Business Startups. The IRS defines ROBs as pre-tax use of retirement funds, basically to invest in the stock of your own business. Now, everything that we're doing is nothing new. If you've ever worked for some large corporations like potentially Facebook or Microsoft, oftentimes as an employee, you could take contributions or deductions out of your paycheck and invest in the company you work for. With ROBs, we're doing virtually the same thing. But instead of investing in the volatility of the stock market, which we all see things happening on the other side of the world that impact the stock market, you're purchasing stock in your own company. In order to do that, you have to structure this as a C corporation. Once the corporation's established, it adopts a company retirement plan, not an IRA. It's a company retirement plan. There's several types of retirement plans that you can set up for these programs. And you can use qualified funds from a variety of retirement vehicles, IRAs, 401ks, SEPs, TSPs, 403bs. There's many types of retirement plans. Any federally qualified retirement plan, you can often roll those funds into this plan except for a Roth IRA. Now, there are programs that allow you to use a Roth 401k into programs, but it's historically is a federally qualified plan into a new federally qualified plan. And because it's a rollover transfer, you're not subject to penalties, interest, loan payments, or taxes in most cases for the rollover programs.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then the business allows you use that money to buy stock in your own company. So let's say you got $100,000. That $100,000 goes from your company retirement plan into the corporate checking account. That corporation then issues stock to your retirement plan of $100,000. No different than if you're buying Walmart or Tesla or some type of mutual fund in a retirement plan. It's still a retirement plan investment. As the value of the company goes up or down, so does the value of that retirement plan.
Wow, absolutely. Great stuff right there. And getting back to the onset of the conversation about American Dream and stuff like that, what I've realized not only for myself, but so many business owners that I talk to, like when we're talking about Rob's, is a big part of the American Dream is betting on yourself, risk reward, and betting on yourself instead of betting on the stock market, for example. And doesn't Rob's allow you to do that? Like that essentially, you're taking your retirement assets that you've accumulated over decades often, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna go into a different chapter right now. I'm gonna take matters into my own hand. And people are probably looking at the economy right now, everything going on, job security. You can just walk into work one day and there's a box that, go get your stuff on your desk, regardless if you were there for like the last 20 years. A big part of Rob's is betting on yourself, right? And just the fact that, that just gets the adrenaline going and excitement and like the what if possibility and that thrill, and that's a big part of the American Dream. And Rob's allows you to take your retirement and to be able to do something like start your own business without getting hammered with these taxes and penalties.
Oh, I totally agree with that, and be quite direct. When you are operating a business, you know what's going on in that business. When you invest in the stock market, you have no idea what's going to happen next week, next month. And we've seen some dramatic swings in the marketplace. But when you're running a business, it's usually rare for something to happen that overnight your value of your business drops 10% because you're controlling that. You see it coming. That's often not the case with the market. So a lot of people much often prefer to have that ability to control their investments. So it's another retirement plan investment. It's just in a business that you own and operate versus securities that you have no control of.
You just said the word control. I wrote it down. You said the word control there probably like 3 or 4 times in like a 30-second span, and it's so important that you said that, Larry, because it's so gosh darn true. We all want to make money, yes, of course. We all want to provide security for our family, right? But a big part of this thing that we talk about, right, like American Dream and business ownership and all that type of stuff, like one thing that I love about my day-to-day is as a business owner, as a multiple business owner, I have control. I'm my own boss. I have control. And hey, some days are better than others, but I just can't go back to a life after living this life as a business owner for over a decade. I cannot go back to a life where I don't have like the control over my money making activities. I guess it's one of those things that, like, once you have a taste of it, you just can't go back. And so, but that's just something that's so important to just the day-to-day life, your livelihood. If you have control as opposed to not having control, I mean.
Well, control and security often go hand in hand. You can't have security without control. And unfortunately, in the environment we see, especially as we progress in age, the risk of being downsized once you reach your mid-40s is 2 to 3 times greater than it was in previous decades. So you start to lose control of your ability to control your security. Obviously, your income is your security. If you don't have control of that employment, you've lost the security for you and your family. And so, especially in today's environment with rising healthcare costs, business owners are downsizing people at a record pace. I lecture across the country. I've done a lot of seminars for right management. 10 years ago, 40% of my audience were in their mid-40s or older. Now, 85% of my audience is in their mid-40s or older. So as we progress in age, our control, our security of our income is actually diminishing. If you get downsized past your mid-40s, it's taking you twice as long to find a replacement job, which means you're burning through all your savings. On top of that, if you find a replacement job, you're often at the bottom of the ladder. You're taking up to a 30% cut in pay, and you're only going to keep that job for 2.4 years. So this, again, is a reason to build wealth for yourself, to build an income stream. When you're a business owner, you're the last one fired, okay? So you have a lot more control over your income and your security. So that combination, those 3 things are what you need. You need control, you need security, and then you got to have the income. And you can do that much better in a business that you own, and you can take advantage of regulations that have been written by politicians to pad their wallets, protect their families, and reward their campaign donors that the employee doesn't have. One thing in particular that is eroding the ability to build wealth is payroll taxes. Payroll taxes at one point were 1% to 2%, but because politicians have been using the Social Security and Medicare program as ways to basically, expand their reach, court voters and what have you, with other free programs, many of which are beneficial, but all these programs have become very costly. And so what was 1% or 2%, and we were capped on 5%, $5,000 of income, it has now exploded up to 15.3%, and the cap has gone up to $147,000. Now, what's scary for people like me that are tax experts and like yourself, we're looking at, where's it going to go? But what they did several years ago is they eliminated the cap on Medicare. And so Medicare is one of the fastest growing expenses we have. So there are politicians out there trying to raise payroll taxes up to 23%. See, that didn't hurt the richest folks. That hurts everybody that works for a living. That is one of the fastest growing taxes that we have. And so we've got to think about what types of programs can we have, or what type of vehicles are out there to reduce these expenses and help us keep more of our money. And being a business owner is the way to do that. It's not being an employee.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And we're doing more as business owners. We're doing more, like we are paying our fair share, but we're doing more than we're creating jobs. We're creating jobs, and like that gets lost in the public debate.
Right. And there's just a lot of other benefits for a business owner. I can show people how to be exempt from paying any type of payroll taxes on any contribution to a retirement plan. And the limitation that you have for most employees, they have a simple IRA that limits them to $6,000 or $7,000 a year, or they got a 401k that limits them to about $20-some-odd thousand a year. And be aware, any money that goes into a 401k, you have to pay the payroll tax, the 15+% that's rising at record paces. But we can show you how to create customized plans that not only exempt you from payroll taxes, but allow you to put potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars from the profits of your business putting literally tens of thousands of dollars in your pocket, cash money every year that 95% of Americans don't have. This is another reason you have to become a business owner, because you cannot get wealthy under our current tax code and tax system, because employees are the ones paying for all these programs that are being offered by politicians. And so you've got to figure out ways to get around that. And these are programs that have been put in place to get wealthy people to put money into their campaigns. So they're always going to incentivize wealthy people because they need their money to run these campaigns.
Right. And so, like, Larry, like a lot of people, when they hear business owner, they get it. I can see how it can be intimidating because it's not a cakewalk. And so, like, what about franchising as an alternative? I feel like the franchise route is that third option that people aren't talking about at the dinner table. They're talking about, well, honey, what do I do? Do I stay at my W-2 corporate job or government job, or do I find another one? Or do I start my own business from scratch, right? But that third option that they're not talking about is the franchise industry. And when franchise does come up in conversation with, the average person out there, the average people, they immediately go to fast food. Like I don't want to own a Taco Bell, but I mean, like, what about, like, to the audience out there that are thinking about business ownership, like, why is franchising, worth considering?
Well, as an award-winning franchise expert, somebody that's helped thousands of people buy, sell, fund, exit businesses,
literally thousands. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah. The majority of people I help are buying franchises. Let me kind of give you an example of what I think a franchise is. I'm not a chef. I used to cook a lot, but I'm never going to be in a Michelin 4-star restaurant. But if you give me
understand, I fast for 20 hours a day and I only eat dinner, and like dinner's like a couple hours away right now, so you're making me hungry. But continue.
Well, if I take a box, let's say a box of brownie, make it very simple. I don't have to be the expert because somebody else has put all those ingredients in there. They've measured them out. Baking is a science. Cooking is more of an art, but baking is very exact. So somebody else has put all the ingredients in the box. I've done the final stuff. I put the egg, maybe a little butter, a little oil, a little water. But that box of brownies that I make, if I go back to the shelf and take another box of brownies off, that next box of brownies is probably going to turn out about the same way. Somebody else has gone through the trial and error. For the person that doesn't have a lot of business acumen, I'm a big advocate of franchising because somebody else has developed the recipe and they allow you to literally put the ingredients, the final ingredients together. And chances are that
another client calling Larry, his phone, I've known people like his phone's always ringing, and you can see why. Continue, Larry.
If you make enough mistakes, they call you an expert. So for better or worse, I got stuck with me today. But that's what I'm a big believer in franchising because there's so many moving components: marketing, advertising, administrative, tax issues, accounting issues. There's a lot of moving parts, sales and what have you in the business. There's not many people that have a lot of expertise in all areas. What you do when you buy a franchise is you're buying somebody that brings those other resources and you basically operate it. Of course, there are literally about 4,000 plus franchises out there. So it's helpful to find something that's a good fit for your personality. And by the way, there are personality types of programs out there to help you find the right franchise. But I'm just a big advocate of franchising because it brings a lot of resources to you, especially if you have something that has a lot of supplies. You, as an individual, if you try to go out, you probably couldn't get any type of discount. But if you go with a franchise, they've developed the CRM system, they've developed marketing materials. If you want a poster, you're not going to have to go out and hire somebody to design that poster. They've divided that cost up among potentially hundreds of franchisees across the country to keep your costs down. They charge a fee for that, but my experience is that That's like a consulting fee or a management fee or a fee to get access to their programs. An individual often will pay those expenses or more in just independently going out and doing those things on their own. Plus, you're going to be paying for the trial and error when somebody else has already gone through the trial and error. So you always want to check. And there's franchise disclosure documents to help you filter the good from the bad. I'm a big advocate of working with franchise consultants or business brokers or other consultants to help you filter the best from the rest. But I'm a big advocate of franchising because it helps people that have the desire to become a business owner that don't have 30 years of experience running businesses.
Right. And what about all the, and it's in so many different industries, right? The franchise model?
Yeah. And understand in every economy, there's certain industries that are doing well. Even in the COVID environment where a lot of people were being shut down, certain businesses were doing very well. The pizza industry, the delivery pizza business did exceptionally well. There are service businesses, the repairing the appliances, the fixing the things around the home, the painting and all that type of stuff. All that was still doing well. There, again, in every industry, there's certain industries that are doing well, certain that are not doing well. And that's part of the research when you go through helping to filter the good from the bad, working with people that can help you filter the best from the rest. And now there are franchise opportunities. It used to be if you thought about a franchise, you were talking about a McDonald's, which was a $1 to $2 million investment. But there are franchises now for less than $100,000 that you can operate out of your home. They don't have the overhead, don't have the brick and mortar, don't have the utilities, all the overhead. You can literally be in business oftentimes for, I've seen franchises below $50,000. But, be careful because sometimes you get what you pay for. But, work with an expert to help you filter the best from the rest. And I always say, if you find something that fits your personality, it's not a job, it's a hobby you're making money at.
Right. And working with you and BENETREND, prospective business owners, whether they go franchise or maybe they purchase an independent resale, for example, they could do this. They could do this with their retirement assets without getting hammered in taxes.
Correct. In fact, the RAP program doesn't even require retirement plan assets, but it gives you many of the benefits of a ROBS, which is something we may talk about here in a moment.
Yeah, let's get in. Like we got about 7 to 10 minutes. Let's dive into RAP before we close. Like RAP is another acronym, and that's unique to BENETREND. And people, by the way, BENETREND is not just a funding company; they're also a retirement plan design company, which is what separates them from other ROBS vendors out there. Larry, let's dive into RAP.
Well, the RAP, in my opinion, is a second generation product. The ROBS program has been around since the 1980s, but in the late 1990s, the Roth retirement plan was created by the federal government. This allowed people to invest money in their retirement plans or with custodians, and the growth of that business or those securities would grow tax-free. The RAP is a Roth version of the ROBS. Many people may know a guy by the name of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is the guy that started PayPal. This is what he did. He in my opinion, did the first RAP. It wasn't called RAP, but he, in essence, converted his retirement funds to a Roth vehicle at 33 years of age. He then started buying and selling businesses, but rather than losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every time he sold a business, he literally took the pre-tax 100% of that money and was able to leverage it into a bigger, better business. Every time he sold the business, he didn't lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. He just kept using it to leverage bigger and better businesses. He's now turned that into a $5 billion empire that he's never paid any taxes on. And that wealth will be protected for his family or designated parties for the rest of his life, and they will never pay any taxes ever on that gain. Not family members. If he wants to give it to his nieces or nephews, all that money goes tax-free.
And God bless America for that story to happen, because
And that's the
Peter
opportunity.
Thiel deserves to be rewarded for making a smart business move like that. He doesn't deserve to get punished and paid. I don't want to get political, but like, God bless America, because I love hearing those types of stories.
Well, the ROBS program is a funding vehicle. It's often for people that want to use a large amount of their retirement funds or a small amount of their retirement funds in combination with bank financing to buy a business. Let's say they want to buy a $500,000 business. They have to come up with about 20% down payment. They can use $100,000 from their retirement funds, tax penalty, debt-free with the ROBS. The RAP, the strategy there is that you're converting the money to a Roth so that you never have to pay the taxes on the future.
So you can do what Peter Thiel did with PayPal.
Yeah. But what you can also do is understand that when Peter Thiel converted his money, he converted, I think, a couple of $100,000 back in the 1990s. That was a lot of money. And, that was probably, tens of thousands of dollars in taxes. Mm-hmm. But what you can do with the RAP is that you can convert as little as 10% of that $100,000, minimum $10,000, convert that to a Roth vehicle. Now you cut your taxes by 90%. You can combine that with cash for the rest of the down payment and finance the balance. Let's fast forward. Let's say the business ends up being worth $1 million. That $10,000 retirement plan investment has turned into $1 million sale price, and you will never pay any taxes, no capital gains, no income tax when the money comes out of the retirement plan. And you've created a vehicle that's often protected beyond the grave for you and your spouse. Unlike a ROBS program or traditional retirement plan, if something happens to the parents, that money is taxable to the children. Here's the problem. Children are often in their late 40s, early 50s when the children pass away or when the parents pass away. So if they're at their peak income, they're also subsequently at their peak tax rate. If they inherit $1 million from their parents, they're pushed into the highest tax bracket. They could lose half of their inheritance. But if it's in a Roth, that money goes past creditors, past federal tax collectors, state tax collectors, and any future tax rate increases, that money goes directly to the children tax-free. The children could literally end up with more than double the net inheritance. So it's not just about a structure to get into a business. It's there to help you accumulate, accelerate, protect your wealth beyond the grave for you and your spouse, potentially doubling the net inheritance for your kids. And as a guy that's got 8 kids, I want my wealth going to my spouse.
Only 8 kids? Only 8 kids?
Only 8. I'm not planning any more right now. We're working on the grandkids now. The key thing is we want that wealth to be a legacy for our children. We don't, even though I'm a strong American, I believe in the American system, I don't want my wealth that I've created to go to politicians. I want it to go to my family. That is the frustration I have, is because here's the scary part. Right now, there are efforts to dramatically increase capital gains tax, increase inheritance tax, all these types of things. These types of programs, if they're properly structured, these are programs designed by politicians to protect their families. One thing I've learned is politicians rarely take away benefits that they put in place for themselves. So these programs that I'm mentioning are not programs that are put in place for the consumer or the voter. These are programs in many cases that are put in place for people that are programs that are benefiting politicians. And I don't see anybody stabbing themselves in the back by taking these programs away. They may limit them, but the limits will be very high. I mean, they've talked about limiting, Roth vehicles to $10 million. That's a nice problem to have. If I have $10 million in a Roth and I never have to pay taxes on or growth on, that's a pretty good deal. Right. But I've always found that for the most part, these programs are not going to be taken away. Or if they are changed, they'll probably be grandfathered. People that already have these programs in place are probably not going to be penalized for having these programs in place. One other comment, and that's in regards to the importance of working with a ROBS CPA.
Yeah.
Rather than, there are a lot of CPAs out there. I have a lot of respect for what CPAs do, but they're almost like family practitioners. If you got cancer, you're not going to go to a family practitioner. You need to go to somebody that knows what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to be paying for somebody to experiment with your business and your structure. The tax strategies with a ROBS or RAP is quite different, and you need an expert that has some expertise to do that. That's the reason I like working with Michael. He's worked with hundreds of clients that have experience with ROBS and RAPs, and he understands the differences and how to use that program to reduce your taxes dramatically, not just when the business is sold, but help you understand how you can reduce your taxes as much as 40 to 50% per year through these types of programs. So be aware that when you have an attorney, you need an attorney in the state. But when you have a CPA, CPAs can work anywhere in the country. Michael works with people coast to coast. And I do believe, and I strongly encourage people, rather than paying your CPA to learn as they go, work with somebody that already has the experience, and you'll find that they'll be able to provide you a lot of advice and expertise to help you keep that money in your pocket. But if you have more questions, it's Larry Carnell at Benetrends. And I think, Michael, you'll have my contact information if people want to reach out.
Absolutely. And people, as a CPA, I've immersed myself in the ROBS structure over the last 7 or 8 years. And a reason why I know so much of it today as a CPA is because of Larry. Larry, you're a mentor of mine in this industry. Thank you so much. Everyone, Larry Carnell, Benetrends, financial, anything that we're talking about today, anything about owning a business and how to go about funding it and keeping as much as you keeping as much of the money that you make as possible. These great strategies out there that include the ROBS and the RAP, retirement plan funding, and the moral of the story, right? Control, security, income, and the American dream. And we can go on and on, Larry. This is just the first of we're going to have you back for sure. But people, reach out to Larry Carnell and Benetrends. You're going to have all this content information here at the conclusion. Click subscribe, because this type of content is only going to be coming more and more from yours truly, Michael Reeder, SRA, a CPA firm for small businesses and for the franchise industry, individuals. We help you with the American dream, just like Larry and Benetrends do. So, Larry, thank you, brother. Always a pleasure having you on.
Great seeing you again, Michael. Take care.
You bet. Take care, Larry.